Hello everyone, this is part 6 of What If Naruto Found His Soulmate, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. Hinata wanted to cry it all out, but her eyes felt dry. She kept watching behind him as the man leaped from branch to branch. How she wished someone would at least notice. There had been many attempts before, but no one ever really made it. But now, she felt all hope was lost. She would never see her family again, she would never see her friends again, she would never see him again. As if on cue, she spotted a blur of black and orange rushing behind them. Hope sparkled in her heart, tears once more made their way down her cheek, but they were tears of joy. He of all people, noticed her and came after them. She then realized the silence jutsu had wore off, as she whispered his name silently. She didn't yell though, for he would lose the element of surprise. The man who carried her was nearly invisible in the darkness of the night. His whole body was covered in a black cloak along with a black hood. The only thing that allowed Naruto to see them was the white kimono that Hinata wore. A speck of light in the darkness of the night indeed. He was closing in with every second, pumping chakra to go faster and faster. The dark ninja TL'd his head and now the blur wasn't a blur anymore. Only a few meters behind them, chased a very, very pissed Naruto. He smirked under the shadows of his hood. He turned to the left and leaped over a building, heading for the center of Konoha. Naruto questioned that move. What the hell was he doing? When they reached the central plaza, Naruto noticed something that made his eyes go wider than ever. What the hell was the meaning of this? What was happening? Naruto just stood there. There in front of him were his so-called friends. The man with the black hood stood in the middle, and equally shocked Hinata in his arms. He putted her down and gave her a hard punch in the stomach, whispering something in her ear that only she could catch. She felt the pain coursing through her body, and winced to the ground. The KPER then lifted his hood, to reveal Sasuke. Naruto said, still shocked by the sight before him. Sakura, Sasuke, Ino, Chuji, Kiba, Shino, Shikamaru, Tenten, Lee, all of them were there, throwing death glares at him. His eyes were still wide though. What the hell is going on here? He shouted angrily. Tears started to well up in his eyes. His friends had betrayed him. Shut up, Dobe. You are going to pay for what you've done to Hinata. We all knew you didn't like her that much, but to give her away and let her while you wanted to save your sorry ass. No way you're getting away with this, Sasuke snapped back. The others took a step forward. Unfortunately for them, they didn't notice the change in Naruto's eyes. Anger coursed through him. Then the final words to piss him completely off flew from Sakura. Still, since we are her friends, we are not going to let her marry like that. I think we should K her and say Naruto did it, guys? She said and everyone nodded. Touch her, and I'll K you, Naruto said coldly and everyone went wide-eyed. Sasuke was the one to smirk though. We'll see about that, Dobe, he said and launched against Naruto only to get the shock of his life. Sasuke came like lightning and launched a punch to the face, but he was blocked as Naruto simply raised his hand and grabbed the fist. He raised his eyes to look at Sasuke's onyx ones, and when he looked into them, he saw fear. Naruto's eyes had changed in his bloodline ones. Blood red with split pupils. Rage overwhelmed him. No matter if it was his friends, his brother, even if it was the girl he once thought he loved, he would K them all to protect her. He clenched his free hand and in a split second, Sasuke was flying back from a punch to the face. Everyone's eyes had gone wide. Sasuke was thrown back with just a punch. Shikamaru was the next one to move. Using his shadow bind technique, he rendered Naruto immobile. Naruto didn't even flinch though. Sakura launched a punch aiming for the face, the punch charged with chakra. When the punch was about to connect, Naruto TL'd his head to the side, avoiding it completely and throwing her back near Sasuke with a hard round kick to the stomach. Shikamaru was scared less. Naruto didn't seem to even try to break the shadow bind. Ino came forward, using her familiar seal and aiming at him, mind transfer no jutsu, she exclaimed, and her body suddenly fell to the ground. Inside Naruto's mind, Ino felt completely lost. There was only darkness around her. She couldn't even see her hand as she waved it in front of her face. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a gigantic wave of red chakra came towards her. She screamed and started running to the opposite direction. Seeing that she would not escape it like this, she cancelled her technique and went back to her body. Her eyes were wide when she saw Naruto hadn't moved from his position, and Chuji was already rolling towards him as a giant meatball, followed by a Gatsuga, Kiba, a whirlwind of fangs and claws, and an enormous wave of destruction bugs from Shino. No attack ever connected. Naruto threw a punch at the rolling Chuji, breaking his technique and throwing him back from where he came from. He raised his other hand to grab the flying Kiba, and threw him away towards the others. Shino's bugs were burned to the ground by a wave of flaming red chakra. Shino himself was standing next to the others, having not moved since he didn't need to. He always used his bugs to fight anyway. Now it was Lee's turn to attack. Within a second, he was in front of Naruto. A second after that, he was launching a Konoha whirlwind kick aiming for the head. Naruto simply caught the kick by grabbing Lee's leg and slammed him to the ground, having not moved from where he was, not even an inch. Throwing Lee back towards the others, he smirked. All of them were hit and sitting on the ground, looking with terror at Naruto's power. Is that all? He asked mockingly. Everyone gulped. He was stronger than everyone combined. Tenten also had thrown weapons at him, only to be blocked by red chakra. They saw it was pointless to keep attacking. They all stood up and looked at him in the eye. You fools are even weaker than the real ones even when they were genins, Naruto exclaimed. They all had their eyes wide in fear. Bah, ha 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 ha. Naruto burst out laughing, but it was a laugh of satisfaction. You really think I couldn't notice? You may have their abilities, but you are way too weak and made quite some mistakes, he said, satisfied at the shocked look of fear they had on their faces. Hinata, in the meantime, had crouched nearby by a tree, looking at the scene before her. Her chakra was still bound, so she couldn't really help him. True, she also noticed something weird at her friends. First of all, Sasuke would never eat a punch that easily. Sakura would never say such a thing as to Kei Hinata, and the rest of you were just very weak. I stopped you without even trying, he said and started laughing again. So, now his eyes had mouse intent in them, who the F are you? He asked angrily, preparing to tear the fakes apart. The clones started laughing. As if we will tell you, Sasuke said. He turned around to look at Hinata and threw her a smile. She knew she had seen this smile before, but couldn't quite remember. Sasuke came closer, and with every step he took, she felt even more fear. He reached out to grab her, but before he could even flinch his hand, Naruto stood before him, M in his eyes. Just try, he hissed, giving him a try so I can you look. The fake Sasuke smirked and took a step back. HMPH, you think you can really defend her? He said and started making seals. Before Naruto could react, chakra bind no jutsu, the fake Sasuke exclaimed and Naruto felt a wave of hot air shoot through him. He winced and closed his eyes. When he opened them again, all the pain was gone. He grinned at the fake Sasuke who looked at him wide-eyed. Hey, you thought your pathetic technique was enough to seal my chakra? He said, grinning widely as he saw the fake Sasuke take a step back. The demonic chakra was far stronger than the normal one, thus a normal chakra bind technique wasn't enough to bind it. Naruto then formed a Rasengan in his hand. But it wasn't the normal blue one. Instead, it was shining a bright red color, and as if this wasn't enough, the Rasengan flared up into a fireball. Ho Rasengan, fire Rasengan! Naruto exclaimed and launched the blazing chakra sphere at the group of his fake friends. Before they could jump out of the way, the blazing Rasengan hit the ground and like a grenade, it exploded covering the area with a white light for a second, rumbling noises filling the plaza. After the light was gone, Naruto's eyes turned back to the usual cerulean sky color. The clones were nowhere to be seen. He looked down behind him to see a crying, yet smiling Hinata. He turned around and smiled back. Before he could even flinch, Hinata had launched herself on him, hugging him tightly, and he hugged her back, burying his nose in her soft silky hair. They smelled as beautiful as ever, lavender. Thank you, he heard her whisper and hugged her more tightly. Though, a troubled thought raced in her mind. What if he thought that she was weak? He said it himself, their fake friends were very weak. Did he think that she was weak now? As these troubled thoughts flew in her mind, she heard his voice, I'm glad you're okay. I could have even fainted if I had my chakra bound. He said quietly. You don't think I'm weak? She asked hopefully. She felt him draw back a little to look her in the eye. What are you talking about? You're not weak, you just had your chakra bound. Anyone with normal chakra could be in the same state as you. I should even thank you, he said while smiling. She smiled back while blushing a little. She smacked herself mentally for doubting him. For what? She asked curiously. He smiled even wider. You gave me the chance to try my new Rasengan. He said cheerfully and kissed her on the forehead. As if on cue, when they separated, a huge group of civilians gathered at the scene of the fight. The teens both looked around curiously, but then remembered that such a fight should have woken up half of Konoha. Before they could get close, Naruto had scooped Hinata in his arms and jumped away on the rooftops. He heard some people yell, it's the demon brat. What the hell did he do here? He turned to look over his shoulder to see some people pointing at his fleeting figure. Hinata had buried her head in the crook of his N. She felt so safe and warm in his arms, that she didn't want to get out of there. She was disappointed when he gently putted her back to the ground. She pouted cutely and smiled, showing him she liked it there. He smiled back and hugged her, resting his chin on the top of her head. She let out a soft M and drifted into sleep. He smiled even wider when he realized she had fallen asleep. The exhaustion from the training, sleepless night and the chakra bind must have kicked in. He scooped her again in his arms and jumped at the window of her room, which was still open. He jumped inside and landed lightly on his feet. He searched the dark room for her bed. When he found it, he walked towards it and laid her gently on it. He covered her with the sheets and smiled to himself when he saw her lips curving up, whispering his name silently. He couldn't hold himself and kissed the cute girl on the forehead before he turned around to leave. He jumped out of the window and closed it, taking one last glance at the beautiful girl that lied on the bed in the dark room. Little did he know that a Curtain clan leader had seen the whole scene from the slightly opened door. Hiashi was worried to hell for his daughter. There had been K attempts in the past, but he thought this was over, as for the attempts had stopped this last few years. The whole compound had been on alert. Many of the guards and both head and branch members were on the run out in Konoha searching for the heiress. He of course stayed in the compound to coordinate. After half an hour had passed from the K, he headed towards his daughter's room, hoping some kind of a miracle could happen and she would be there, sleeping peacefully. He was ready to open the whole door, but from the slight opening he had made he noticed a figure at the window, holding a sleeping Hinata in his arms. At first, he was ready to open the door and attack him, but before he could even flinch, the figure stepped in and laid Hinata on her bed, covering her with her sheets. He was shocked at first. The figure leaned forward and kissed his daughter on the forehead. He was ready to burst in again, but when the figure turned around, the weak moonlight from the window revealed his face. Blonde hair, blue sky color eyes, whiskered cheeks, Naruto. He couldn't help but smile. He already knew the rumors were fake, but now he was assured completely. After the boy had left, he walked in and kneeled next to his daughter. He was so relieved that she was okay. He gently stroked her hair, and smiled even more at his daughter's small whisper a name in her sleep. He knew what had to be done. But again, it was up to her. He had to test her strength. If she failed, she would live a miserable life. If she succeeded, she would live a happy life and would make him proud of her too. He was so sorry that things came like that. He wished that she would take the happy path without the need of going through this. The only thing he could do was to hope. If he encouraged her, well, she was a smart girl. She would get the message almost immediately, and the challenge would be lost. He smiled one more time before leaving the room to inform the others that she was okay. And he intended to at least help her, by letting everyone know who was the one to save her. Naruto now walked the street back home. He had to get through the main plaza, so he prayed the people were already gone. He walked in the shadows, avoiding attention and suppressed his chakra so no one would sense him. He had learned how to suppress his chakra by Jiraiya, and it was clear why the perverted hermit had such a SK, it was useful for his perverted research, anyway. Naruto though used it for subtlety, a very important part of a ninja's SKS. As he walked through the shadows heading home, he noticed a crowd being gathered at the center of the plaza, a man standing in the middle. He hanged himself in his female form, a young lady with blonde hair and 2 ponytails hanging on her back. He covered the whiskers, of course. It was the only thing that would give him a way through a crowd anyway. He walked closer to the crowd and struggled through them to see who was in the middle. There, he saw something that made his eyes go wide in shock, but after a second, they were full of hate. In the middle of the crater stood Kakarei, a big smile on his face. He stood proudly in the middle of the crowd, a small group of ninjas tied up next to him. The ninjas all wore black cloths and hoods, concealing their faces and body features. Naruto then heard Kakarei speak, "Yes, my friends, it is true. This foul ninjas tried to kill my future wife, but I stopped them with my might and power. As you can see, the battle was ominous, they were 7 against 1, but I defeated them all. The might of the Akake clan is unmatchable," he said, raising his fist at the height of his face, and smiled broadly at the crowd. "Where's the heiress now?" Naruto heard someone calling from the crowd. Kakarei's smile didn't leave his face though. "That, my friend, is something I can't tell. How do I know you aren't just another foul KPER? I don't accuse you, please don't take me wrong, but security is a first priority for a true ninja," Kakarei said. Naruto was disgusted. Of course this fool couldn't know where Hinata was, for it was Naruto who carried her away from the carnage. And security. What the hell did this fool know about security and subtlety? As far as Naruto knew, he would just burst out and boast about his not existing strength. And the outfit. Oh my god, it was even lamer than Lee's. In fact, the only thing that was good about it was the fact that it was fancy and decorated all over with glittering gold lines. Compared to Naruto's old outfit, this one screamed even louder, "Here I am. Come and get me." You could spot him in a crowd and see him in a pitch dark night. Naruto had to use every speck of his self-control in order to not bury a Rasengan in this man's chest. For Hinata's and his own sake, killing him now would only bring more problems. It was like a test of his patience, as another villager yelled something that pissed him even more. "What about the demon? We saw him flee a few minutes ago," a man yelled from the crowd. Kakarei kept smiling as ever. "Oh, that coward. Don't be afraid, my friends. This monster tried to harm my beautiful future wife once more, but I made it in time to stop him. After I finished with this once, I confronted him and sent him running, tail under the scales," Kakarei said proudly. He looked at the group of tied ninjas who nodded their head, showing the crowd that he spoke truth. Naruto was so pissed. He swore to himself that if he ever found the slightest reason against this man, he would kill him in a heartbeat. No one would stop him, not even Hinata. His eyes flashed red for a moment and turned back into the usual blue one. Kakarei was now bragging about the battle and how strong he was. He even handed the crowd pictures of him fighting and Naruto fleeing. He even gave them to Naruto, not knowing it was him of course. Naruto's eyes were wide. One of the pictures showed Kakarei stopping a punch from a black-dressed ninja, and the next one was the same ninja that was sent flying back by a strike to the face. Naruto frowned. The next ones showed Kakarei blocking the attacks Naruto normally had and throwing his opponents back. He wanted to scream by anger when he saw the picture of Kakarei throwing a fireball Rasengan at the ninjas. He wanted so badly to kill this man, but the crow could never believe him. This man was making fake photos to impress people about him, and decrease Naruto's reputation. But there was no proof that they were fake at the moment. Without wanting to hear anything more, he turned around to leave, but felt a hand on his shoulder. He turned his head to look at the face of a smiling Kakarei. He wanted to frown and spit on him, but managed with much effort to smile. "My young lady, would you mind to help me demonstrate how I defeated the demon? You can play the part of my wife if you want," he said. Naruto now was filled with joy as more than 1,000 evil thoughts of torturing Kakarei rushed in his mind. He nodded. "Well, I will help, if you let me play the demon," he said seductively, wanting to make them think he just was a little horny. Kakarei frowned a little but nodded and his smile returned. "Very well then. I'll leave the part that consists my future wife out for now. Please step up," he said, and Naruto stepped up and stood in front of the red ninja, giving a seductive smile. Kakarei only smiled back. "Let us begin." At first, I must say I just fought hand to hand with the demon. He was strong but he said and launched a punch at Naruto. The hanged boy now smirked evilly as he grabbed Kakuri's fist, brought him closer while launching his own punch at Kakuri's face, sending him flying on a tree, was weaker. Naruto exclaimed, jumping and giggling in a girly, innocent way. Oh, he was having so much fun screwing with this fool. The crowd stared wide-eyed at the sight before them. The supposed hero was taken down with only a punch by a girl. Kakuri stepped back up and smiled as if nothing happened. You are strong, my lady. I was surprised at first, but I see there are people with potential here. Work hard and one day you will become like me, he said, giving Naruto a thumbs up and a smile. Anyway, I expected the demonstration to be less violent. I am still tired from my battle before, Kakuri said, trying to reason to the crowd the fact he was hit so easily. The crowd seemed to believe him as they nodded their heads. Naruto was again pissed off. The only somehow good thing about this man was his talent to make up excuses. He wanted so badly to beat him senseless. Then why don't you look tired at all? Your clothes and your face are in perfect condition, Naruto said, smiling evilly knowing that what he said was true, but Kakuri has always had a rather good excuse. My lady, I am too strong to let this fool's even scratch me, he said and smiled. Naruto frowned. Couldn't this man make an excuse without praising himself? Another idea flashed in his mind. Well, if you are so strong, I think you can defeat me, right? Naruto said, pointing himself with his thumb. Kakuri's smile finally left his face. I'm sorry, my lady, but I'm too tired to fight you now. I have the power to stay up and keep walking, but my energy is not enough to spar, he said, reasoning himself once more. Naruto wanted to cry. This fool was weak and a coward, but he was so good at making excuses. But then Naruto remembered something. You're an Akake, right? He asked, pointing a finger at the red man. Kakuri smiled again. Yes, I am. Our clan is the strongest one after the Hyugas, but this will change in time. The Akaks reign supreme, Kakuri said, punching the air above him. Naruto crossed his arms over his chest. Then what are you doing here? Shouldn't you be at your compound? He asked, hopeful that the man had no excuse for that, but he was proven wrong. Well, I had to come here. I was worried about my wife after all. That demon nearly killed her with his foolishness back there. She was lucky that I was here to save her even once more. She needs someone strong and, Kakuri said but was interrupted quickly. Strong? You mean that the heiress is weak? Not able to defend herself? Naruto said. He wished Kakuri would say the wrong words, giving him the perfect reason to strangle the man. HMPH, she just isn't strong enough to put up with 7 men, that's all. Naruto's hate for this man rose even one more level. He dared to say that Hinata was weak. Naruto knew her powers, and she was more than capable of dealing with these men on her own. Now he wouldn't kill him in a heartbeat. No, this would be a favor. He wanted to make Kakuri's last moments on Earth as miserable as possible. He tried very hard to keep himself from losing in rage, for he knew that his eyes could turn red and reveal his identity. He didn't know why, but the bloodline still triggered when he was angry. He closed them, trying to calm down as he felt them turning red. When he was sure he was calm enough, he opened them again. Since there were no gasps or wide eyes, he knew that they were back to normal. He couldn't stand this man's boast and brag anymore though, for he would end up filling the plaza with blood and internal organs. He turned to the crowd and started walking away. Where are you going, my lady? Won't you help me demonstrate the battle? He asked. Naruto turned his head to look over his shoulder at a confused Kakuri. He smiled the best he could at the situation. Nah, I'm sorry but it's getting late. See you later, he said and walked back in the shadows. Making sure that no one was looking at him, he turned back in his normal self and waited in the shadows. When the crowd was gone, all that was left in the plaza was Kakuri and the group of ninjas. From his spot in the shadows, he could hear and see Kakuri very clearly, though the last couldn't even notice him. He saw Kakuri looking around suspiciously and then turning at the group of captured ninjas. He untied them. Well done, everyone. It was most than a perfect act out there, Kakuri said, smiling. We are happy to help you, Kakuri-sama. But why do you set up such a thing? One of the men dressed in black asked. Kakuri kept smiling. Well, I know it's not the fairest of ways, but I try to impress my future wife as much as possible. You see, I want her to want to be with me. It isn't that good when your life mate doesn't want you, right? Kakeru said. The men nodded in understanding. Naruto though groaned inwardly and frowned. This fool was lying even at his own men. He then saw something that pissed him off even more. The men in black threw their black cloaks and hoods away, revealing another black and white outfit, with the Akake clan symbol on it. So that was it. Kakeru was using his own clan in the whole plot. You are dismissed for now. It was a long night after all, Kakeru said, and they bowed and left. Kakeru left for his hotel with a smile on his face. When everyone was gone, Naruto left his hiding spot and headed for his house to sleep. It was a long day today. He would let Hinata know about this tomorrow anyway. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.